Hello,
Hey, is Mike there?
this is Mike.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Hi, how are you, man?
Good. So good to finally do this after so many delays.
Yeah. No worries at all, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Uh, I guess this is the actual release date of the album. So I guess that's a real big thing for you to finally, have this album out. Because I mean, I know the COVID-19 caused about a 6 week delay, correct?
Oh yeah, it's it's um it's weird because like when you're doing an album, for me anyway, it's the most satisfying thing in the world and it's the most frustrating thing in the world because like you have all these songs that you want to put get out to the public, but it takes so long to get everything recorded and then the artwork and the pictures and all the stuff that goes with it. And but finally, like say 2 years later, it's finally out to the public. And and as far so it's just great to get the songs out of my head and onto a disc. But and as far as the pandemic goes, I really don't know what the answer is going to be. I mean, I don't know if maybe there's since most people are home now, or more people are home. Maybe they're looking for music to listen to. Maybe they're or maybe they just don't have enough money to buy music. I guess we'll just have to see. But either way, I'm happy that it finally came out today. So I'm in a very good mood.
Yeah, I bet. And this is your debut for Silver Linings Music, correct?
Well, this is the first time that Silver Lining, excuse me, put out my record for the whole world completely. When I did my first album in 2014,
Right.
they were under a name UDR, and
Okay.
they had put that out for just Europe, but now they're doing the whole world with it for this third one, and I gotta say that I've never been treated better by a record company, and they're 100% behind it. So it makes me think that the album has a chance. you know.
Definitely. And this is your third collaboration with Alan Takeo, one of my all-time favorite vocalists, who just sounds amazing on the brand new album. It's just his vocals. It's hard to believe he can still hit those highs and the range and everything. So I think the collaboration between you two, and I guess their second working with Lance, his guitar is phenomenal. So just the three of you guys working with Mike, I guess on Mike Romeo from Symphony X on the drum programming, really, it's just hard to believe that you guys created such a monster of an album.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, Alan Tecchio, I live in New Jersey, and
Right.
so does Alan Tecchio. So Alan Tecchio has always been like, a hero in this area for metal. And I finally got to know him uh, for real, like around 2010.
Okay.
And because we were playing together briefly in a band called Seven Witches, and
Okay.
so I really got to hear him sing, and I was just sing live anyway, and I was really blown away, and I always kept in touch with him. And then when I finally was ready to do some solo stuff, I thought he would be perfect because his voice, has so much power and grit, but he also has nice melody to it. So, and he just came into the studio, total pro. He knew exactly, what I wanted to hear, because basically what I do is I'll send him a demo, and although I can't sing, I'll kind of sing what I hear,
Right. Right.
So he's got the hard, very difficult task of trying to put it together what I'm trying to sing and then make it sound good. But he just comes into the studio and it's fantastic. Lance Barnwald, 24-year-old guitar player, one of and the reason why I like him so much is he's one of the few guitar players that, although he's 24, he can of course, he can shred like the new school guys, but he can also play with just really nice feel like the older guys. Like I'll listen to him play, and he'll rip out some old classic rock kind of blues leads too in the middle of all the shredding stuff. So that's what I really like, and so I'm really happy and blessed to be working with these amazing guys.
Absolutely. And yeah, I remember when Jack Frost told me what it was like working with, Alan with Seven Witches, as you mentioned. And haven't you also done some Heathen's Rage live stuff with Alan as well?
Yes, there was a time that the original Heathen's Rage was going to get together, and because we had gotten an offer from a Greek record label that they wanted to put out all our unreleased demos and all that stuff, and they wanted to get us on the Keep It True festival in Germany. So originally, all the original guys were on board, but then the singer kind of backed out, and we gave Alan a call, and he had never even heard of Heathen's Rage, but he came in, and he just did fantastic. And so we went to Germany, played the show, and it was it was a lot of fun to see all the guys again, jam with the guys again, and it's on video, and it sounds great on the video, so that was a lot of fun too.
Did you ever read any of Alan's Step Up, since you're Jersey based, do you ever read any of his from Step Up magazine? Any of the articles he used to contribute back in the mid-90s from Step Up magazine?
Yeah. Even though in the '90s I wasn't a personal friend with him, but of course I knew who he was.
Right. Yeah.
With Hades and
Hades,
Nonfiction,
of course,
they were playing here all the time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Stepping Out magazine. I know he was a writer, and then he worked for them for a really, really long time. Yeah. So I knew who he was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one. Like I said, I've known Alan for years. He's one of my favorite vocalists, and he like you has his hands in many camps of different music. But as far as how he sounds on your new album, it's just he's got that old classic First Don't Succeed type Resist Success Hades vibe. But then he also has the more rockin' Nonfiction. But then he's also got the Watchtower technicality. So. And and I'm not a huge fan of Symphony X, but I think it's great that you worked with Mike Romeo on this as well, and he contributed. Obviously, you guys had that great Symphony X Primal Fear Firewind tour, which we were all excited about. That got canned because of this plague that we're experiencing. But as far as your other bands. Obviously, the news is that you just have now joined Death Dealer because of your connections with Ross the Boss, which is fantastic, and I'm sure fans will be very much looking forward to hearing new Death Dealer. I know Sean Peck has been mentioning that's been in the can for a while, so I think it's great. Did you actually go back and re-record bass tracks on that, or?
Well, yeah, the way you describe it actually is the way it kind of happened. Like, from playing with Ross. Ross is in Death Dealer, and the drummer Steve Bolognese is also in Death
right,
Dealer. So, they said, hey, they need a bass player. Why don't you just come in and just, So I was like, okay, and so I played on the latest record that's going to be coming out, I guess later this year.
Yeah, sometime in this fall, right?
Right. So I didn't. Redo any bass on any old albums or anything like that, but I played on the new record that's going to come out. Sounds really, really good. Really good, solid power metal. So I think fans of power metal. Sean sounds great, and he's super talented guys. Stu, Marshall, fantastic, and super great people too. Great guys.
Well, I think Sean mentioned like a year ago that they were working on demos, and I think that might have been their previous bass player. And I guess now you've actually went and recorded the actual album with them. I think that's what I was alluding to. But yeah, Sean, another tremendous vocalist who, has worked with the guys from Merciful Fate, and of course his band he's had now with Cage and everything. So you definitely work with some excellent vocalists. Even Alan from Symphony X, you definitely work with some amazing vocalists. But yeah, and even Ross the Boss. I remember just talking to Ross the Boss in February, and we getting excited about that tour happening, and then that also didn't happen with Burning Witches, and I remember him saying that you're such an exceptional bass player, and he's so honored to work with you. And I agree. You may be like a Steve DiGiorgio in the sense that you play in other bands, and then you obviously have your main band, which is Symphony X, and Steve has, of course, Testament. But when you play with other bands, you can tell it's you still. I recently got the Dead Risen also on AFM, just like the Ross the Boss,
Oh,
and God, it's just phenomenal. It's just
oh,
you're not just a person that just plays bass. You can tell you have a very unique sound. Even when you listen to to your own band, Silent Assassins, you listen to a song like Whore of Babylon, and the fact that you're able to do that Middle Eastern stuff on bass, like it's like it's no big deal. That's phenomenal.
yeah, I mean, thank you very, very much. Yeah, when I do these projects, I don't approach it like, it's just a job. I mean, I really digest the music, and I really do the best that I could possibly do. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, I have, I guess, just from playing for so long and playing with so many different people, it's really helped me to learn many different ways I could approach the bass. And so I guess I have so many things in my arsenal now by now. So I try to I try to give each song exactly what it needs, not too much, not too less, and I just do the best I can. But I'm really blessed. I'm really happy that I get to work on all these projects and meet all these incredible musicians and writers, and just helps me to be a better player, and I'm always learning.
Well, with Ross the Boss, I know you guys were going to do Hail to England in its entirety, and obviously you can emulate Joey DeMaio's sound, but it's not just that Man of War type bass sound. It's not just Steve DiGiorgio. It's not just Geddy Lee. Like you say, it's just how many different styles, even jazz influences, and it's exceptional. Now with the band Silent Assassin, you write all the music though. I mean, you play the rhythm guitar and you come up with everything originally, right? It's all your music.
Yeah, Silent Assassins, is the only band where I write 100% of everything, music, lyrics, and I even write the vocal melodies.
Right.
So, and I guess what started Silent Assassins really is, I got to be well known through Symphony X, and everybody just saw me as a progressive metal bass player. But the only problem with that is I didn't come from that when I was younger. My influences came from hard rock and heavy and classic heavy metal. So I wanted to get across that this is where I came from, and this is where my influences lie. So that's how the whole band came to be. So, and I think, in the end, it's great for my soul, because I have all these riffs that maybe don't fit really with Symphony X, but they fit, with the Silent Assassins, and for the most part, I get very good response from this stuff.
Yeah, I remember 10 years ago when I heard James Ribara did the Distant Thunder and you were on that. I was like, wait a minute, that's that guy from Symphony X. Because at the time there wasn't a lot of social media, and I didn't realize how many other bands that you had been involved. And you're right, I kind of thought, oh, he's just the bass player of Symphony X, a prog metal band or something like that. But when I started realizing your dynamic abilities and the other started hearing other bands which you were involved. And I remember when I heard the first Silent Assassins, when Alan told me it was coming out, and I was just blown away. And talk about your soul and your lyrics. You definitely approached some amazing themes. I think the second album had a very Shakespearean vibe, but this one, I mean, you're all over the place. Whether Edgar Allan Poe or just the whole Gothic vibe, as far as far Gothic horror. Whether it be Lady Bathory, historicity like Ides of March. So you write all these lyrics. I mean, because these lyrics are very well written.
Oh, thank you very, very much. Yeah, I write the lyrics, and a lot of these lyrics, I've had, over the years of just playing, and and originally they might have been intended for Symphony X, but they just kind of never got used. So then I just kind of take them and use them for what I want to use them for. But yeah, and I guess the reason I write these lyrics is because for a long time I would write music, but I didn't know what lyrics to write about, because I was never like comfortable with writing about like girls and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But then I'd say maybe about 15 years ago, I started to really get into history and mythology and all that stuff, and I started to just kind of like learn it, because in school I never cared, but then I really started to get into it, and then I kind of put the pieces together that, wow, these epic stories really would go great with heavy metal music, and then I finally was able to say, okay, now I could probably start doing some solo stuff, because now I know what to write about. But yeah, I take the lyrics really seriously, and I try to do the best I can with it.
And you did such a great job. Is your Ironborn Game of Thrones HBO or original Game of Thrones?
Well, the Game of Thrones is an interesting thing, because I'm definitely not the guy that has seen every single episode. You know what I mean? So a lot of times people will ask me Game of Thrones questions, and I'll be stumped. But I saw enough episodes where, I said, wow, that word Ironborn is really, it just like stuck in my head. Wow, that's really powerful, and then just some melody just started coming in my head just from, just from kind of watching some of the episodes, and then I just put it together, and whatever gaps I didn't know, I kind of just looked online. So I guess maybe you could say it came from maybe all aspects of Ironborn.
Yeah, no, I've watched every episode, but I got the gist of it. But it's such a speedy and aggressive song. But let's talk about Night of the Long Knives, where you're listening to the album, and all of a sudden it just goes completely the other way, where you're in like this medieval type thing with this like mandolin type stuff. It's like, this song is amazing.
Right. Well, that's another thing that kind of happened around the same time that I started to get into history. I discovered Blackmore's Night also around 15 years ago.
Good example.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I really love what Richie is doing, and I really became a big fan. So a lot of their style of music rubbed off on me. And if you listen to the 3 albums, the solo albums, you can see there's a lot of spots where there's some really Celtic things going on.
Absolutely.
So that comes from Blackmore's Night, all that Celtic, medieval, Arabian kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Renaissance music, Renaissance fair type stuff. I should have thought about that right away. It's like, yeah, that definitely sounds, without Candace singing, that definitely sounds like an homage to Blackmore's Night. But speaking of Candace's singing, we go right into Champion, where you get Sarah Teets from Mind Maze, and wow, that song is just so enchanting. It just sounds so beautiful. How did you work with Sarah Teets?
Yeah, another interesting story. So, originally I gave the song to Alan, and that was one of the songs he was going to sing. And then he called me up one day, and he said, I think this song might be better if you have a female singing it, because Alan, he's got no ego whatsoever. He's just like the coolest guy,
Absolutely, yeah.
And he wants what's best for the album. So he suggested that I get a female, and I had never even thought about it, but I said, hey, why not? Let's try it. So I thought about it, and I was thinking of, who have I worked with, on some of the projects that I could get into the studio, and it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a situation where you'd have to email tracks and all that. So Sarah, she lives near Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So I always liked her voice. so I gave her a call. I want, to see if she'd be interested. I sent her the song, and yeah, she was totally up for it. And she played flute on it too, which
Yep.
was really cool.
Yep.
And I think it came out really cool.
Yeah, she's got such an enchanting voice. Have you heard their new cover of Queensryche's Road to Madness?
I have not. I didn't know they had
Oh
one.
yeah, message Sarah and have her send you an MP3 of Roads to Madness. It's amazing to hear her do Jeff Tate better than Jeff Tate can do himself now. Is just really good, and a song like that, taken off the Warning, a
Yeah.
good 8-minute epic from the early '80s. But yeah, when I was
Yeah.
first listening to this album, before I did the research, and I was like, where did I know that girl's voice from? And I started thinking, I'm like, could that be Sarah from Mind Maze? And then sure enough, I looked it up. I'm like, it is. I didn't realize she played flute, and she's let me know that she's played flute on several things besides Mind Maze, including now she's going to be working with the Italian bands. So I think that's great that she's getting out there and getting discovered too, because she's a tremendous talent. I saw her open for her band open for Armored Saint and Saxon, I believe 4 or 5 years ago, and she's just a great. She has no ego either. She's a heavy metal chick that has no ego too. So I mean, it's just so cool you're working with, real talent without, METTLE and not, people that are just looking for a paycheck. Because that's a lot of
Yeah.
time these people that just want to contribute to these things, they just want a paycheck. I think it's important people know that too. A lot of time they say, oh well, such and such is a session in this band and that band. They're just looking for a paycheck, and it's like, yeah, some artists are like that, but other artists, they're just looking to broaden their horizons. You've contributed to so many bands that I've never even heard. I mean, there's German bands you contributed, Italian bands, and so I can't even keep up with how many bands that you've had.
Yeah. Yeah. Bands contact me all the time, and you know what? I don't charge a lot of money to do it because I know that a lot of bands just don't have it. You know what I mean? And
Right,
I
right.
know the way it was. I know the way it was for me. So, and whatever. If I could, if I could play on something and maybe it'll make a few other people listen to it, good for them. Good luck to them.
That's very noble and very generous. I know my one friend just wrote a review for the new album, Sonic Perspectives. You should definitely check it out. He's a phenomenal journalist as far as just knowing his stuff. And it was interesting. He was talking about the song Power of Steel and how it had a strong AC/DC vibe. And I didn't really notice that at first. And I kind of listened to it again. I'm like, it does. A song like Power of Steel, you would think be a real, like, a true, like, traditional metal, but it does. And you were talking about how Lance embraces some of that 80s rock vibe, which I think it's important that the album is so diversified that you have fast songs, aggressive songs. They have the old, the 80s Hades sound, Steel Assassin, but they also have, Aurora Rockin', but they also have, like you say, Blackmore's Night. I think it's so cool that you have such a conglomeration of different styles on the album, so it's not just one thing. And a lot of people are just like, oh, I only want to hear the fast songs. They're like, no
Yeah.
way.
I know.
I
I
like the
know.
diversity.
Yeah. For me, like an album, the flow of the album for me is like so important. And I like the listener to kind of just take a journey, and I like each song to have its own feel. So I'll have some fast songs in there, some slower songs, different tempos, different kind of things going on. And but yeah, I mean, you know what? I mean, fast songs are great, and I love them. But you know what? I love to have those older, early '80s sounding songs in there. I just love it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that Power Steel is interesting because, I mean, originally I thought that would be something Ross the Boss would go for. I had it, and but it just didn't get on the record. So I said, yeah. I mean, I kind of like the riff, and it's a fun riff. I want to use it.
Yeah, you wrote a lot of the music on the latest Ross the Boss album too, correct?
On the latest Ross the Boss, I co-wrote a bunch of things with him, and then I gave him a couple of extra songs as well. And yeah, so on the Ross the Boss record, considerably heavier, I think, than what he's done in the past. And
Yeah,
so yeah, he's doing great. He's making a good comeback.
and he too has a very unique vocalist who can hit so many different ranges and stuff like that. But yeah, consider different albums put out by Accept, you got songs, and one song starts out like Fast as a Shark, where it's super fast, but then you got like
Yeah,
Flash Rockin' Man,
yeah,
so even bands like Accept, Judas Priest, like that. Look at a masterpiece like Defenders of the Faith. You've
yeah,
got really fast songs, and then you've also got songs like Jawbreaker, or songs like,
yeah,
so I think that's a lot of people need to realize that, these bands definitely set that precedent, that they started
right,
out with songs that were in your face and, super
yeah.
fast, but then after a while, there's some, you got ballads on Judas Priest albums that are awesome.
Oh
So
yeah, right. And then you got like, yeah. Speaking of AC/DC, right? You have Fast as a Shark, and you have I'm a Rebel. It's just a just
right,
a 3 chord fun song.
right, which is an AC/DC song in of itself that Accept somehow appropriated. So I think a lot of
Right.
people, and it's interesting too, because you do get so associated with Symphony X. I know when I first started promoting your album, they're like, "That's that guy from Symphony X. Is it just another prog Dream Theater ripoff, wannabe kind of band?" I'm like, just the opposite. This guy's showing you that he can step out of that, and do
Yeah.
something else. Just like the Symphony X vocalist when he did Adrenaline Mob. I mean,
Right.
completely different than he does with Symphony X. I think that's great that you guys can do that. I know
Yeah.
Alan's vocals on Adrenaline Mob. You don't even know it's Alan from Symphony X unless you actually see that. So
I know. Yeah. He
same
yeah.
live,
I mean, he grew up. I mean, yeah. Russell grew up on.
Russell.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
grew up on. Led Zeppelin and Foreigner and David Coverdale, and so he he can do many other things. And I mean, a lot of times, musicians get pigeonholed into a certain style of music. So I think sometimes doing solo stuff is it's good to show their fans that they could do more stuff.
absolutely. Now, what would have been some of your most exciting opportunities to play bass for, as far as when artists asked you to contribute to bass? Would have been some of the bands that you really enjoyed contributing your bass for?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, of course, well, Death Dealer was awesome, and of course, Ross the Boss is all, was fantastic. Uh, Dead Risen was a really cool thing because these were musicians that maybe were not the most known. You know what I mean? They were just kind of local guys, but
Mm-hmm.
they were really good, solid musicians. And we wanted to kind of make a record that had the feel of like Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, with a lot of jamming in there, and just stuff that kind of isn't done anymore. Like you would go see a band maybe in the late '70s, early '80s, and they would just in the middle of one of their songs, they'll just start jamming impromptu, and so we wanted to kind of bring that back a little bit, and also have good heavy tunes that maybe sound even like as heavy as Testament at times, but um, just kind of be dynamic. Um, and just, besides that, wow, there's just been many, many, many bands. It's all like a blur.
I bet. I can only imagine that. Yeah, that Dead
but
Risen album on AFM, that just blew me away. I kind of thought it was just going to be average at best.
yeah,
Um, but when Dustin sent that to me and I finally got it, I was like, wow, this is really good. And I can't wait to talk to Mike about this as well. I mean, he sent me the Ross the Boss. And I knew when Ross told me, when I interviewed him in I think February, he told me that you contributed to that. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to Mike about that as well. And then, of course, the stupid COVID led to
right.
countless delays. But and then of course, obviously, was looking forward to the whole Symphony X, Firewind, Primal Fear, because Firewind just released an amazing album on AFM. Primal Fear have a new album coming out next month on Nuclear Blast. So
Yeah,
all these bands were really hoping to promote their new material. Now,
yeah.
obviously, touring is not an option now, but do you have maybe plans in 2021 for any kind of touring, or is it more of a studio-based band?
Oh, so here's the latest. As far as the Silent Assassins, I think I'm just going to sit back and wait and until everything is kind of back to normal.
If
So,
ever.
as far as Ross the Boss, he's 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 gonna. I mean, he's got a bold move here. He moved the tour to this November.
Right.
Uh, so I'm fingers crossed. I hope it happens.
Yeah, definitely.
And Symphony X. the tour with Primal Fear is going to be moved to May, June of 2021.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm just glad that the tours were postponed and not canceled.
Right.
It was so funny because I moved into a new home in like the first week in March, and I was like, well, I got the Ross tour coming up, Symphony X tours. I'm gonna be fine with money. Let's just, it's gonna be great. And then boom.
Yep.
And then, so, so it was, financially it's been it's been a struggle, but
Oh yeah.
it's but it's good. I think things are starting to come back together, so I'm looking forward to the future.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It's good to have a positive outlook. I mean, I don't know. It's still, the plague is still raging, and the second wave may be right around the corner, and even these shows that are scheduled for this fall, are
Right.
still up in the air. And I know
Right.
everybody's trying different things like live streaming,
Yeah.
the drive-through, which Doro just attempted. And I just talked to Schmier from Destruction yesterday, and they actually are going to play a venue with Poltergeist in Switzerland that normally holds 1,200, and it's sold out at 300, so they can social distance. So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it all changes and what it means. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I still think it's
Uh,
great that these bands are being more open and personal with their fans, given these limitations. Like even Metallica recording a version of Blackened at home and then putting it out for people to listen to, and Flossom just did Hard on You, and I think that's good. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I know what it's like. But I too kind of, the first of the year, right after Christmas, started, saying, okay, well, financially this is looking good. I just got a promotion, just got a raise. Everything was looking fantastic. Started spending, and then slowly started to dial it back, and now completely unemployed
Yep.
and
I
living
hear
on our
that.
savings. So.
I totally hear that, man.
So, but that's why I do what I do as far as the interviews, because I want to promote the bands, especially bands that I honor. I've love everything Alan Tecchio's done. I always want to champion him, and I've just become a great fan of your work. Like I said, I never really was a huge fan of Symphony X, but seeing
Mhm.
everything you've done outside of that, whether it be the Ross the Boss or the Dead Risen, or even as far back as the Distant Thunder or Seven Witches, is so good. And now hearing these three Silent Assassin albums and hearing what you've created musically, lyrically, and the diversity of the different sounds, and embracing, different styles of music, not just thrash or speed metal or power metal or progressive, but embracing just all different levels, and then even incorporating different guest vocalists, like bringing Sarah in was a tremendous, wise decision, and kudos to Alan for suggesting a female vocalist on Champion. And
Right.
hopefully this Silver Linings will be the, Amazon's got it on sale, and I've been telling people right and left just to go pick it up for $15 on CD. It's it's definitely worth it. I personally don't have it on CD yet. It's on my list along with
Mhm.
several other things, but
Sure.
I just got my Father's Day gifts last week, and so I got my Murder in the Front Row DVD and my Motorhead statue, so I gotta dial it
Oh
back.
man.
But it's definitely on my list. Now, does it come with the booklet? Come with lyrics and everything, as fans are still hoping?
Yeah, yeah. It comes with lyrics in the booklet, and yeah, and the whole bit, and hopefully, I just hope I hope discs don't go away. I'm afraid that someday they're going to go away.
I don't know. The vinyl made a huge comeback, but vinyl's so expensive, but it's made a huge comeback. But I don't know. I mean, they said DVDs and CDs would be gone by 2018, and I don't know. The heavy metal community, hard rock community, there's a huge demand for CDs. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah,
so
yeah. We still want something to look at and hold in our hands.
I agree. I mean, I've listened to the new album probably 15 times only because I burned it onto a CDR. And I've
Yeah.
just played it and played it and played it and played it because I just can't sit in front of a computer or listen to it on my phone or stream. I just can't. I'm too old to adapt to all that technology. I'm too much of a luddite for all that. And I want a CD
Oh.
with lyrics. And I'm very grateful that I had the Dead Risen on CD, and I was able to page through and do the lyrics. And I had the first two Silent Assassins on CD that I did purchase. So this is definitely on my list, and it's just a matter of time and budgeting.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
But no, I do think it's a fantastic album, and I'm glad that it's finally out and that, you can breathe a sign of relief that, your hard work is paid off, because it is definitely a well written, well constructed, fantastic album, Mike.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, I probably started recording it about. Uh, it was around Christmas time of 2018.
Wow.
That was when I started recording it, and I did a little here and there in between tours and things like that, and then eventually, you know, and then you think it's never going to come out, and then boom, here's the day where it comes out, and so it's a good day. So I'm just chilling out. I'm going to celebrate with some ice cream.
Excellent. That's good. And the reviews I've seen have been very favorable. Like I said, my friend wrote the one at Sonic Perspective. That's very well written. But all the reviews I've seen have been very favorable, so that's a good sign too. So
Yeah, I'm very very lucky that most of the reviews are really solid, and it's good therapy for me. It keeps me. It's just like heavy metal is just in my soul. It just never goes away, and anything I could do to contribute to the heavy metal world is just, feels great to me, and I'm just blessed that I can continue to do it.
yeah, we're blessed that you do it for us, because it's right back at you. I mean, that's
Thanks.
all about it. Focus on service. I mean, I'm the same way. I do this because I want to promote the artist, and I want to,
Yep.
first and foremost, I'm a fan, and I want
Right.
to champion that. No pun intended for that song title, but I want
Right.
to champion that cause.
Yeah.
And when artists
And
create something this beautiful,
thank you, dude. And by the way, you're like a metal encyclopedia.
you think so?
Oh my God! I see the things you post, and I'm like, wow, who's that? I never heard of this. What's that? It's awesome.
I appreciate it. I think as I get older and health issues take over, my memory is nowhere near what it used to be. But I've been told that. I've definitely stumped the Trump before. Eddie does not appreciate it. Um, and
Yeah, man.
yeah, I've been told that many times, that I'm a walking encyclopedia of useless information, especially when it comes to heavy metal and hard rock. But that's because I've been it for 4.5 decades. It's been part of my life, and it's been. I'm the same way when it comes to Star Wars and certain movies, especially of the
Mm-hmm.
'80s. Um, that's what I indulge in.
Yeah.
Music, movies, books.
Yeah.
Those are my drugs. Those are my choice. Those are what keep me
Yeah.
going. So
Yeah, you can't take that away from us. That our youth, we just want to hold on to everything we used to like, and we still like it, and it doesn't matter how old you get.
yeah, as long as my memory hangs in there.
Right.
I'm struggling right now to remember the name of a damn Accept album that has Fast as a Shark and Flash Rockin' Man. That's pathetic. One of my favorite bands of all time, and I can't remember the name of the
Oh,
album. It's
right.
like
Yeah, Restless, right?
Restless and
Restless and Wild.
Wild, yes, yeah, Restless and Wild. My point being, Restless and Wild has Restless and Wild and Fast as a Shark, but then you also have songs like Flash Rockin' Man, and then
Yeah.
Heads. So that's my point is,
Yeah.
in Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith, starts out with,
Mhm.
oh my God, Free Wheel Burning. God, this is my
Right.
memory. But then you got songs like Jawbreaker, and then slower songs like When the Night Falls Down. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You got to have diversity in the songs, and you. And you know what? I like just like to show. I like so many different types of heavy metal, and I like to show all the sides.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And I try not to do any cheats. I try to do everything from my memory. I'm sitting here talking to you on the phone right now. Strictly, there's no internet in front of me. There's no
Right.
computer. There's nothing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to cheat. When I was in high
Right.
school, I didn't want to use I didn't want to use a calculator, and now I don't want to fall and use Google or anything like that when I'm actually trying to be professional about it. And so. So I appreciate the compliment, but my compliment right back at you, because your bass playing is phenomenal. Your musicianship is phenomenal, and you're obviously a personality. And I can see how you work so well with Alan and Sarah, because you don't have an ego. I know when I met you on the Rasta Boss tour a couple of years ago, you just were just a really down to earth, very friendly, kind, person. And I was just like, man, this is Mike LePond from Symphony X. And when I met Mike Romeo, it wasn't exactly the same thing. He had a little bit of an ego.
Right.
And Russell was cool, but obviously Symphony X has been a very successful band. So
Yeah.
it's just cool to see that you didn't have that kind of rock star attitude.
Yeah. I mean, Symphony X brought me, onto this playing field, you know,
Right.
out of nowhere. And I was just a struggling musician here in New Jersey, and then I just happened to know somebody who knew Michael Romeo, and then and then before I knew it, you know, I went from playing to like the bartender and his girlfriend to like 1,000 people in Brazil, and it was just that fast, you know. And but you know, I've done so many things with Symphony X, but one thing I never want to forget where I come from, and you know, I always try to help out the local scene as much as I can.
That's so good. That's so cool. And like you said, Allen's is you know well known around the Jersey area, and so that's you know that's so cool that you know he can contribute to this as well. There's so much great music from Jersey that people don't realize as far as the heavy metal scene, whether it goes back to the Knights of Old Bridge or you know just all
Right.
that kind of stuff. And I think it's just you know I was just wearing a Blessed Death shirt
Wow.
the other day, so you know I think it's important that people yeah Blessed Death, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's important. You know, and I when I met what's his name from that metal show? Oh, great, I'm gonna forget his name too. Not Jim.
Don Jameson.
Don Jameson. Yeah, I met Don Jameson. I was wearing a Hades shirt, and it was an
Wow.
Anvil show, and I met Don. Well, actually, I'd met him before at Vixen, but I really got to hang out with him at a Hades show. See, I can't. This is my mind. At an Anvil show, and I was wearing a Hades. First you don't succeed, and he was just like, "Oh my God, way to represent Jersey," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, you're. That's the whole point. You know, I'm always representing Jersey, even back to Overkill. You know, Blitz is always about Jersey. So
Oh yeah.
great
Yeah.
metal scene that's been thriving there for 4 decades.
Oh yeah, and you know, yeah. I mean, it's been a lot of cool bands and cool rockers coming out of New Jersey, and so you know, it's great. You know, I mean, you know, I'm just still enjoying what I'm doing, and I know a lot of the bands that are still around. You know, they're still enjoying what they're doing, so which is all good.
That's good. All right, well, I'm going to let you go and let you enjoy your ice cream and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you very much for us finally getting together and doing this. What a perfect time to do this on the day of the release of the album. The good news about you doing the Death Dealer, you know, and you know, just more power and you know, more hopeful that you know people realize what a great album this is. Like I said, I've been promoting it all day. I think 4 or 5 people since my post alone have already decided to purchase it based on that. So that's good news.
Yeah, I really appreciate that very, very much, and yeah, and you know, I'm excited about it, and you know, I'm gonna promote it on my end as well as much as I can, and it's gonna do what it's gonna do. But you know, it was fun to do, and I have no regrets.
That's good. That's the key. Have no regrets.
Right.
All right. Well, you take care, man. It's always great hearing from you.
All right, dude. I'll see you online.
You bet. Bye.
All right. Bye bye now.